It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hey, welcome to the program. We have Mr. Michael Smith with us. Michael is a pharmacist. Michael lives in Russellville. Michael, welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you could be with us. Hey, so how long have you been a pharmacist?
I've been a pharmacist for almost 41 years.
Wow. And have you been in Russellville that entire time?
This is my 40th year in Russellville. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I've owned my store for nearly 37 years.
Wow. Well, I wanted to have you on because I know definitely you're following this whole PBM situation with local pharmacists. We've got reports of pharmacists all across the state who are really hurting because of the current status quo. They also, some of them are getting notices from CVS, Caremark, offering to buy their business or something, or they'll come out and give them an estimate of how much it's worth. What can you tell us? I mean, what's the reality for the local pharmacist right now on the ground concerning these reimbursement rates? You get one price for one prescription at a local pharmacy, and it can be outrageously different at, say, CVS. What can you tell us about this, Michael?
Yes, unfortunately, it is going on. As I talk to customers and make it known what is going on behind the scenes, and they're appalled. And they ask me, how can this be? And it's to the detriment of the whole industry. It's amazing that it's gotten this bad this fast. And I think we have to go back and look at where these pharmacy benefit managers actually came from in the first place. They actually started processing manufacturers' discount coupons where the physician would give the patient a prescription. They would take that brand name prescription to be filled and take that coupon where they would actually process it through a little black box that we were given by these companies back in the 80s. And we would process that coupon off of their price of their medicine. And that's where they got started, pharmacy benefit managers. And then they got into where that they could actually verify the eligibility of the patient, and then they could process the claim for us. And from there, they decided that they could get rebates back from these drugs themselves, and therein started the problem as it evolved over time. These larger and larger rebates, so the higher the price, the more rebates they got back from these manufacturers' coupons and so on. So that's where we began, and that's sort of where we are at right now.
So let me ask you this. Why are these contracts non-negotiable? Well, how does that work?
Yes, they're a take it or leave it. They're written by the PBMs, and we can take it or leave it. We can take whatever they give us. At one time back in the 80s, they actually were very pharmacist-friendly, and they wanted to create their own networks. And they worked with us, gave us reasonable rates, reasonable dispensing fees for our drug, and actually paid us for the price of the drug. But over time, they began to build their own drugstores, and as their retail market increased, they decided, we've got stores that we can funnel all of this business to, so we'll pay other pharmacists less and less. And so we're going to drive out competition, very anti-competitive and very monopolistic, drive prescriptions from your local pharmacy to their own individual stores that they own.
So can you address, we're talking with Michael Smith, the Russellville pharmacist, or a Russellville pharmacist. Can you address, how does this all work with Blue Cross Blue Shield? I mean, because the way it's been kind of described to me is, I mean, these guys are, it looks to me like getting rich. You have the corporate interests really making out well here, but while you guys are not doing so hot.
Yes, like Brandon Cooper was telling yesterday, they've entered into agreements with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they hired Caremark as their prescription or the pharmacy benefit manager. And so they've got these rebates that are coming back and forth. So they're actually rebating back to Caremark as well as to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So in other words, the higher the rebates, the more that Blue Cross Blue Shield and Caremark benefit from these benefits. And I might say that Caremark is the nation's largest drugstore chain. Mm-hmm. Last year they had revenues of $177 billion, and
Wow.
They had they're number 7 on the Fortune 500 corporations.
Yeah, on our Facebook feed right now, Steve has just written that the Caremark CEO made $18 million last year. So, I mean, they're doing pretty well for themselves.
Yes, they are. Very much. So
okay, so
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that money that's going on. Yes.
Well, Brandon, you mentioned your colleague Brandon. He also talked about how the reason this is like now kind of even a bigger issue is because with these Arkansas Works plans, Medicaid expansion plans, they take taxpayer money and pay Blue Cross Blue Shield for the insurance policy. So now your taxpayer dollars are going to participate in Blue Cross insurance policies, and then they have contracted with Caremark. So it really is your taxpayer dollars are now working against your business as a local pharmacist.
Exactly. They're underpaying us. Obviously, we're getting negatively reimbursed. Very little to no fees are given to us. But if you take that same prescription, as Brandon said, to their pharmacy, then you see that there's a big difference. I've even got a patient who is actually a employee of mine, and she has Ambetter. And we filled the prescription at my location, and I saw that I was reimbursed a total of 61 cents. But when she looked on her profile of what was paid on that prescription, Caremark said that they were actually charging Blue Cross Blue Shield $3.68. That's a small example. I have another employee that also has Ambetter, and they were reimbursed $12 at my pharmacy, right at cost. But that same prescription at the CVS, they were reporting at $140 was actually paid to us.
Wow.
Through Caremark. So there's a big gap, big spread there.
Yeah.
And they charge clients for more drugs than they actually pay the pharmacy.
Yeah, the fix is certainly in. I mean, it really just, the whole thing sounds like a scam, you know, and it doesn't sound like, you know, people are actually just allowed to I mean, there can be no competition when there's this stuff going on. And my fear is that, you know, if CVS keeps going, you know, they're going to corner the market. They're going to buy these pharmacies out, run everybody else out of business, and then they'll be able to do what they want to with the prices.
Exactly. I get a lot of comments from patients too that we want patient choice. We want to be able to shop with you, and they're receiving these mailers that you need to go shop at our own individual pharmacy, our CVS pharmacy, and they're driving customers away from us to their pharmacy. It's very anti-competitive and lack of choice. And you said the consumer is going to lose and the taxpayers lose.
Mm-hmm. We're talking again with Michael Smith. He's a pharmacist from Russellville. Now, Michael, there's a big election up there. I mean, runoff on March the 13th between Breanne Davis and between Bob Bailey. Now,
yes,
I understand that you're supporting Bob Bailey. Do you mind sharing with our audience as to why?
Yes, I've known Bob for many years, a man of high integrity, very honest. His wife is actually has been a long-time teacher. I believe she recently retired at the Russellville Public School System. Their sons went to school with my sons, so we've had a good working relationship, very good working relationship, and a super swell guy. I supported him when he first started to run. He'd been talking about it, and I was very encouraged that he did make the decision, and I supported him then. And that was back in December. And since January 1, the PBM issue has sprang up out of all of this.
Okay, so in the PBM issue is actually, I mean, you can directly chart if you look at funding. Bob's opponent, Breanne Davis, receives money from DBH Consulting Political Action Committees. We were detailing this yesterday. And, of course, that goes directly to the DBH Consulting, Michael Lamoureux, and their client is CVS. It's public knowledge. It's available on the websites. And so I'm sure it is a big deal because if you're kind of taking money from what is essentially big pharma, then you know that you might be a little bit slow to try to fix some of this stuff that's going on with pharmacists.
Exactly. I'm extremely happy that Bob has not taken that PBM lobbyist money. Obviously, they have a lot of profit that they can spend on lobbyists. Bob has not taken that money, and I applaud him for that, and I've told his campaign directly that I very appreciate it. And I made them aware of this conversation you and I are having right now of what is going on behind the scenes, behind the RX curtain, to explain. People have not always known what's going on behind, but they're beginning to get an education now.
So what do you think? Yesterday, the governor had a press conference, and they're saying that they want to try to address that. Now, I'm very cautious. I said in my first hour, hey, all you pharmacists need to be very cautious, because just because they say we're going to try to address this, there's all these stipulations. And so far, the stipulations are, well, we don't want the legislators to be able to legislate, have up or down votes on amendments. We want them to agree to the language before we call a special session. That seems to be attempting to control the outcome before our representative democracy can actually be allowed to work. But just that's my caution. But Michael, if you heard what the governor said, I mean, are you happy with this? Are you optimistic about this? What are your thoughts?
I'm very cautious like you, because pharmacists are asking for transparency, to shed the light on actually what is happening behind this curtain. And we're wanting accountability. That's exactly the two things that we want: transparency and accountability with the government. I don't believe in over-regulating. However, in this case, we've got a system that is broken. The model is broken. It's not doing well. The current pharmacy, PBM, and insurance carrier marketplace is kaput. It's broken. There's a conflict of self-interest, of self-billing to the detriment of competition, patient choice, and patient care. I believe that a pharmacist cannot provide excellent patient care and innovate when they're simply trying to survive this broken marketplace. The expertise and the oversight, which we've gone to school for so many years, 8 years or more, as with this enforcement needed, we need guardrails to help the market rebound so we can take care of our customers, and so that we don't get crunched down where that we're eliminated from the market.
When you say transparency, what do you mean? Do you mean you want the public to be able to see some of these contracts where you have these, where Blue Cross Blue Shield and I mean, what do you mean by transparency?
I want not only the consumer to know what's going on, but I want the Arkansas Insurance Commission to know and have examination of what is going on, if they can see behind it. I realize the PBMs say that it's proprietary and we should not be able to see it, but it's their rebate dollars that are being siphoned off, that are being kept. And they need to see where the money is actually going. How much money is it that needs to go back into the system? There are certain smaller PBMs who are transparent and which supply these rebates back into the system. I think Arkansas Medicaid is a good system of that transparency and applying rebates and getting the safety and efficacy of the drugs rather than going after the price only because of rebates, then actually safety and efficacy of the drug, what is very effective for that patient.
The governor was asked in his press conference yesterday, wouldn't it just be cheaper? Wouldn't this all be worked out if they hadn't have done the private Arkansas Works option where they take taxpayer dollars and give it to Blue Cross Blue Shield, if we would have just done regular Medicaid expansion? And he said, no, Medicaid expansion would have been more expensive for the pharmacists, or regular, traditional Medicaid. Is that true? Do you agree with that?
I do not agree with that. In fact, in Kentucky, they have just fired their PBM, and they're doing it themselves. A lot of times what's happening, employers don't realize the intricacies, and they're not secure in their knowledge. They haven't built up a base of knowledge of how to secure these rebates and how the marketplace works. A lot of employers now are looking back and seeing behind the curtain as what is going on with the PBMs. How come they're taking up so much money? I think employers need to educate themselves. They've outsourced it so much to the PBMs and let the PBMs handle this behind the scenes that they're giving up so much money that the healthcare cost across America is going up rather than going down. PBMs add and bloat the amount of dollars and expenditures that are spent on medicine.
Wow. There are so many layers between the patient and the healthcare, whether it's the insurance companies and the government, between patients and the doctor. And now what we're exposing here is even for the pharmacist, even for the person that's, trying to give us the medicine that we need, look at all of the middlemen and look at what they're doing. And it's something I'm glad that we're able to bring attention to all this. And I'm really glad, Michael Smith, you're somebody you are setting the record straight. This is somebody, folks, who is a pharmacist, who is there in the industry. And really there's nobody that is going to know their industry better than somebody who's actually participating in it. So you're on the ground, you're in it, and I really appreciate you coming on the program and sharing your wisdom with us today.
I appreciate you, Paul. Thank you for the opportunity.
All righty, let's stay in touch. Let me know what I can do. Michael Smith, everybody, from he's a Russellville pharmacist. We do appreciate him. Also a Bob Bailey supporter.